just gonna have a discussion about cars. So the Le Mans race, what did you think?
It was cool. I didn't know too much about Le Mans before we started watching it, and we were just watching the what was it, Corvette number 63 guy on the YouTube, and then I found out, hey, they do multiple races at one time, and they have to deal with traffic and
Oh, multiple classes, I
oh
think you're referring to.
yeah, multiple classes, and so then I got to like see the hypercars and see the ones below.
Yeah,
But
hypercars are new for this year, I believe, which is interesting.
what was that Toyota one that was like? I don't know if it won or
Because
not.
Kazoo Racing, yeah,
Yeah.
they won the overall. Um, the the number eight car actually I was looking into it. So we found that GM was doing a live stream of just the onboard for one of the cars. So we just put that on the TV and like let it play. And occasionally like when it was slowing down or something interesting okay was happening, we were checking in with the race. And it was mainly just having the car up there, right? And
Yeah,
then just listening to the
just
car's engine and
just the engine noise. Oh, yeah,
yeah,
so sweet.
yeah, you're missing the face over here of just ecstasy at the car noises. So yeah, we were sitting there listening to that and I guess some things. It was interesting. I don't know if they've done that in the past, but I really like the fact that they did that. It was super cool. I think it was very good for the hype of the C8. I think it was a close race. They probably could have, maybe even should have won. Um, it seemed it seemed kind of dirty that the Ferrari, actually, I think it ended up being the car that won their class, is the
Oh,
one that crashed into the back of the
yeah, the Corvette.
64 car. Yeah,
Yeah, that was kind of low, that happened.
yeah.
But what was the other thing that? Oh yeah, no, that really made me look more into the Z06.
That was good. Yeah, definitely.
It was
We
like, oh, should we look into that car? Getting one in the future.
yeah I talked to the guy we purchased our last Corvette from and told him put us on the list, right? And so hopefully as soon as allocations come in, we can pick one up, right?
Yeah, that'd be really cool,
Yeah,
especially in the coffee color. You know me.
yeah, yeah. You're looking for it in the weirdest color that they'll sell
Oh,
five of.
come on! No, that just is an awesome color.
Yeah, I think the color it's replacing. I think they sold like they said like
The
some
two of them or something.
two, yeah, some ridiculously low number.
I did also like the color it is replacing. You're right, I did. When that came out, you were like, no, you're not. You can't get a Corvette in that color.
Yeah, yeah,
But they got rid of the Long Beach metallic red, so
yeah. They got the hooker lipstick red,
the perfect color
the
red
perfect
for the
color
Corvette. Yeah.
for the Corvette. Yeah, that absolutely
Mhm.
hooker lipstick red, sparkly car. That's a little too. So when we ordered my car, um, you really wanted me to get it in that car, and I wanted something a lot more subdued since I'm not a big flashy car color type of guy, which is ironic because when they asked us what our spec for the Lotus Emira was, we picked it in the most
Brightest color.
gaudiest yellow
I
color.
was gonna say the brightest color, because basically that was out of the five colors you got to choose from.
It, yeah, the blue is pretty bright, I think, at least in all their press materials and
Yeah,
in
no,
the
that's
in the
true.
sun. But I think blue cars are, though very uncommon, are much more common than yellow cars. I think yellow cars are pretty
And
pretty
blue
rare.
cars just always remind me of Subaru.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic of conversation. Why you
Why?
dislike Subaru?
I just no, I'm just saying blue. The blue color reminds me of Subaru,
I
and
yeah,
it doesn't remind me
to
of a Lotus.
to
I was considering green, but
yeah, I don't like green. I don't like green cars. Um, yeah, just for clarification,
But the yellow is good.
you don't dislike Subaru cars. You had a very bad ownership experience with Subarus because of a specific dealership.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so it's not like you dislike.
anyway,
So the Nissan 300Z or the new Z that it's
the
not 300, it's just Nissan Z,
it was,
400 horsepower. You know, what do you think about it? What's your opinion?
if we weren't getting a Lotus, I would so grab that. That would be my like, hey, I'm getting this car. We'll pick it in a good color, and it's gonna be a good little toot-around car.
Tutor on car.
Okay. It's only 400 horsepower. Our other cars have over 700.
Yeah,
So it's a toot-around car
it's
compared to
it's
that.
it's funny that 400 horsepower makes it a calm daily, every sort of car in our
No,
household.
no squealing tires. No, what
I'm
is
sure
it?
you
No,
can break those
oh
tires
yeah,
loose,
you know what I
even
mean.
with a turbo lag. Yeah,
You know what I mean. No supercharger one. There we go.
yeah, yeah. It's much more. You can use much more of the throttle pedal before you get into complete trouble.
Yeah,
It's not like I breathed on the throttle pedal, and that's
yeah,
why my rear end is sitting next to me.
yeah. No, I was so surprised when I saw it in the press release that they had, and I was like, oh my gosh, it looks very similar to the proto that they had out, which I was like, I saw the proto, I was like, it was like 50-50. But then once I saw that real thing, um,
I really like the prototype from a look standpoint. I Some people started talking about it pretty quickly, and I think like identified it as well. And you know what? Let's call it what it is. The 350 was a revolutionary car. The 370 was an evolution from the 350, and it's an evolution from the 370, right? It's pretty much the same platform, right?
same
It,
chassis, right? Roughly.
same chassis. There's like I'm sure they tweaked a lot of things, right? And I'm sure it's like new molds and the parts aren't 100% compatible, but it's not a ground up, right? Which is fine. I have no problem with it. I'd rather them come out with the car the way it is, the manual transmission, and more power through an existing engine that's uptuned. You know, I'm gonna say it like I think it's both a great thing and a bad thing. The Amira is accused of the same thing, right? It's an Evora, right, with a body kit.
Yeah, it's the Evora that
Yes.
becomes an Amira. Yeah,
So you know, you could say, well, why, if you don't like the new Nissan Z because it's basically just the 370 with a body kit, and it does have a new engine, and the Amira is an Evora with a body kit and the same engine and transmission. Why is the Amira get a pass and the new Z doesn't? And this is comes down to a me thing, not an it thing. And that's we were going to buy an Evora, and then we were gonna order one, and then they were
we found out we couldn't.
they, they weren't
We
they
didn't
weren't
know
making it
why.
anymore. And so I started looking at alternatives, and like I kept my ear to the ground on the Amira. And honestly, when I saw it, I was like, when I saw that it was basically an Evora with a body kit that I like way better, I was like, okay, well that makes sense, right? So if I was going to buy a 370 and then they came out with the new Z and it was the same car but with a twin turbo engine, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm happy with that. But
Now,
that's
now, to be honest, so just how I felt when I saw both the releases of the Amira, because I watched that one, I watched the Z, like not live, but late on that day. I felt a much stronger reaction to the Amira. I liked how that looked much better, more than the Z. That's probably why I
Amira is a car that's either going to save Lotus or bury it. Based on the initial reaction, I think it has a good chance of saving it. A car like this is always going to get really higher numbers the first year, and the problem Lotus has had is everybody who wants one buys one the first year and then they can't really sell anymore. I think they only made 50 of the Avoras for the U.S. market last year. They sold. Some people were estimating like less than 2,500. I think I read. I'm by no means like an expert on it, right?
for
Uh,
like the whole run,
for the
production run.
whole run, right? And so they want to sell, many more of these. I think it's a good platform to do it, right? And again, the C6 was an evolution of the C5, and the C7 was an evolution of the C6, and a lot of the same underpinnings in the C7 existed in the C5, right? Obviously, they got heavier and more advanced in some aspects and more power, um, as cars have tend to do. In the new Z, I think the new Z is absolutely beautiful. I'm sitting here staring at a picture of the Amira, but I think the new Z. One of the problems I had was I saw the prototype and I was like, it's not going to look like that because they never do, and they did. They came out and looked, and I think they refined it just a little bit more, and I think it looks great. Um, if
No, I love how it reminds me of the old 300Z.
the 280, you
No,
mean?
300.
No, I think you mean the 280.
The,
Look
the,
up a
the, the,
300. Look up a 300Z.
the rear of it reminds me
Look
of
up a 300Z, and then look at a 280, and it's modeled after the 280.
I thought the okay. I'm trying to find a rear of it because that's what.
Yeah, I'm looking at one too. They showed it next to it, but regardless, here's a good picture.
Okay, here is a 300ZX.
Uh, I
The rear reminds me of a 300ZX.
uh, maybe you're right. I mean, I grew up with those cars. You think I'd remember them better? No. See, it's much thinner. If you look at this, you see how it's like half the deck of that.
Oh yeah, no. I'm sorry. I was just trying to the lights.
No, but I mean, yeah, but look at the whole shape though. Like it's, I don't know. Like,
see how the lights are like the
yeah, but the 300ZX was supposed to be modeled after the 280Z.
See, I don't know that much. I just know that I know that I
There,
really
I mean,
like
it's a design language, right? But
yeah.
like, ZX rear view, you see, like that. That's what it's modeled after.
The Datsun 2.
Yeah, 280Z, right? That's what.
Well, the middle, basically.
Yeah, I mean that's the
Okay.
point, right? They're carrying that design language forward. See, this is here you go. They're carrying that design language forward.
Yeah.
That's the design language, right? We're looking at pictures of car butts.
Yes, and well, I was comparing
I mean, you're
taillights.
you're technically right, but like those taillights were a copy, and so this is like a copy of a copy, I guess. And so you're not wrong by any stretch of the imagination, but
And I was really disappointed that you could not build one right after they released it.
yeah, I mean you're spoiled. You couldn't
I am
a lot of the other cars we looked at you couldn't. The point is like if we if I had there's other cars I would get before a Nissan. See,
Oh
and
yeah, like a
and
GT500.
yeah, GT500. There's a number of cars and like different strokes for different folks, right? I don't know that anybody the 300Z would be anybody's Halo car, right? Nobody would be like the car I aspire to own is a 300ZX. Like as the pinnacle, I don't want to go any further. And at some point in time, if I were a different age or things in my life would turn out differently, I could see this being a good car to aspire to, like a $40,000 car that I could buy.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, if we were like 20 years old right now.
No, I mean, even if we're 30 or 40 years old, but things are different in our lives or whatever, right? We just weren't making the same amount of money or, whatever. The fact of the matter is we're looking to buy 80, 90, 100,000, $120,000, whatever the lowest cost car as kind of a knockaround car. Now we could we could pick up a 300Z and, a Gazoo Racing 8.6, and still have money left over for mods. But it's not the same. Those cars are fun to drive, and in fact, I might pick up, a GR, actually, like a used one that's a couple years old, because honestly, as a project car, I think it would be fun to just absolutely like mod the thing out, and it doesn't have to be new. It doesn't have to be warranty because I'm going to avoid all that
Yeah,
stuff.
you're gonna take every you gotta
I
take all the
can,
parts out you want and put in whatever you get.
yeah, I don't really care if it's the engine's been abused. It'll probably be all gone through and stuff like that. So that's buying that car used as opposed to like a new. Same thing with the 300Z. I think it'll actually get better in the next couple of years, which may be the same of the Avora,
You
or the
mean Mira?
Mira, but I think it's the first edition is going to be special enough, and the timing's right. And like I said, we were already planning on buying
Yeah.
the Avora, so the
See?
Vera, yes.
Yeah.
So the Mira makes when all your cars start with the letter E, you confuse people like us. So it's not a case of like I don't like the 300, the new Z. I do like the Z. In fact, if things were just different, or if I was looking for like a car, would I buy one? The big question everybody does is like, would you buy one over a Ford Mustang? I think the people who would buy a 300Z aren't. I'm sure some
See,
people are cross shopping, but I think you're right. They do compare it to the 300 ZX. Son of a bitch. They even compared it to the
so they
damn.
did.
Yep. They even compared it to that. That you win. You win that one. Nissan. Yeah. Anyways, I think the people who are interested in more of a JDM kind of car aren't necessarily cross. I think some people will, but I think a good portion of their audience isn't cross shopping it with like a Mustang, right?
Yeah,
They're not
I see
crossing it
that.
with like a Dodge Challenger, right? They
Mhm.
want that like what that car is, right? Rear front engine, rear wheel
Really
drive, like
helpful.
lightweight, cheap sports car, right? That is,
But then
doesn't.
they may have the heritage that they're looking for, like for the Toyota and all that.
Yeah, right. So, y- you know, I don't know that they'll scalp much market, but I think there's a good amount of market. I think in all honesty, Ford has been scalping their market, and it's theirs to claim. If you look at like Japan stopped making these hopped up cars for the most
For
part,
a while.
except for Nissan or except for Honda, which only makes front wheel drive cars, which is anyways, that's a whole nother story.
And the only other one was Mazda, who made the Miata, which, yeah.
The Miata is not the Miata has its own unique following, but a lot of people in Miata just is not. It's just underpowered,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah,
that
that's
was the
true.
BRZ's problem,
Hmm.
which they apparently have fixed with the new redesigned engine, the new 2.4 liter. But my point is lack of any like these JDMs. People are buying like the Focus RSs, and what's the what's the other one? The
Hyundai,
no,
um,
well yeah, like
the
the
Velociraptor,
Veloster, or
Raptor, or whatever.
what's the other Ford that there's the Focus and then the other one?
I don't know. I remember I sat in the Focus and it was tiny for me.
Yeah, the Focus, but like those like four-cylinder turbo charged cars,
Hmm.
Subaru never went away, and I think they gobbled up a lot of that market. But I don't, I think I was talking to a guy at work who was really torn about the new BRZ, and I think the main reason he's not torn about the new Z is $40,000 is a bridge too far, right?
Yeah,
Um,
because the GR86 is $30,000.
right. And if your goal is ultimately to mod, which is I think why a lot of people buy these. I think less people mod Mustangs. I think if you look at, I don't know, that's my opinion. That's what I've seen. The numbers may not bear true, but I think a lot more people modify these cars, right? And if you're looking to do that, then like a cheaper starting platform, even if you put the $10,000 into it, you can put it into the areas that you want.
Hmm. I mean, just look at most of the Fast and Furious cars that they had. The majority of those were JDM cars.
Well, that was the whole deal was you could buy, I don't know, whatever. I have my own opinion, but you could buy power out of the gate with a V8, or you could buy a um import car and modify it, right?
Mhm.
Something that was a little bit underpowered, but had a lot of potential. And then, if you were willing to put in some elbow grease, you could save some money and still have the performance. And I remember when we had our Subaru, like the big thing was like V8 killer, right? It was like
Yes. Well, no, it also looked like a sleeper car.
ours did, but like just in the community that forums and talking to people and all this stuff, like that was the big thing is like upgrading your turbo, upgrading your car, and then like demolishing those Mustangs. But like Mustangs, what did Ford Mustang 2008 Ford Mustang? How much did a Mustang make in 2008? I know it wasn't
It
great.
wasn't much compared to.
It was not great. It was 300 horsepower in the
So it
Ford.
was fairly close to
Yeah,
what Subaru was putting out.
so yeah, and the 4.6. So
Mhm.
like with the new Coyote engine, that became a much harder stretch because producing 350, 400 horsepower was pretty obtainable. Even getting like 400 horsepower to the wheels was took some money to do, but when they came out with the 20, I don't know, was it 2015, 2014, 2015 Mustang, um, with the new Coyote V8, and it had 435 horsepower starting out. That was that was kind of like an oof moment for guys who,
Was that the GT engine or was
yeah,
that the
that's
base?
the GT.
Mm.
That's the V8. And now they're like 460, 480. The GT 350s were 525
Mhm.
in a naturally aspirated trim. The GT 500 obviously 760 horsepower. It started to get to the point where like getting a four-cylinder car and producing that 500 horsepower was much rougher. It's not that you couldn't do it, but honestly, to have any sort of reliability, you had to do so much around the engine, right? Transmission, drivetrain, stuff like that, that it became you were spending way more money than you could just go out and buy a Mustang and
Yeah, yeah.
and 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 see you later, boys. So, but that's why I think like people liked something a little cheaper, a little less power, and like and some of these other cars, right? To
Mhm.
to get a sports car. I mean, I've talked to people who it's all about your perspective. Who honestly thought like you know this car or that car was quick and it seemed really fast in them, and to somebody else it might have seemed very slow. But like if it's the fastest thing you've been in, then you know
And it feels fast.
it feels fast,
Yeah.
and that's fun. So it's I don't know. I think it's a some cool cars are coming down the pike.
Yeah. Now,
Definitely.
here's another new car that I just found out about yesterday, which I was surprised about. It's the so it'd be next year's Mercedes G-Class 4x4 car that the supposedly being driven around LA on the streets and people are spying it now.
Yeah, who cares? This is this isn't a truck show.
It's not a joke.
It is that's a truck.
Okay.
Whatever. I couldn't give a shit. Couldn't give a shit. Uh, yeah, I don't care. I think the 300Z I think
No,
is
just to see.
just I think the new Z is we'll probably talk about it some more once we get some more information and some reviews, but I think it's going to be a spectacular car. We had bounced back and forth about buying a 350Z, a
Yeah.
370Z multiple
Hmm.
times,
Yeah.
and just never bit the bullet. And then I feel like we outgrew it. Not necessarily like in age, but the type of car
That we were looking
that
forward
we
to.
were looking at, right?
Yeah.
And like that's not to say that it's a bad car or like whatever, or you like if you like one or if that's the car you're aspiring to get that you've made some mistake. It's just not the car that's interesting to us. Well, it's not that it's not interesting to us. It's just like anything else. we've got other cars we'd rather get, and
Yeah,
like,
so the Lotus is higher up on the list for us than
yeah,
the Z.
yeah. I think like if we look at getting a project car, um, one of those two cars,
Either the GT86 or the
G
Z.
GR86, yeah,
Oh, GR?
or the new
Okay.
Z, yes,
I keep
Gazoo
saying, I keep
Gazoo
saying,
Racing.
I keep saying GT, it's GR.
They won Le Mans.
Yes.
We can remember the name.
Yeah.
So we're big Formula One fans, but we're I
After
got I
after
got
the after after the Le Mans thing, I'm looking at the cool
yeah,
Red
and
Racing schedule. I'm gonna be
yeah,
kind of
yeah. We're gonna start following that a little bit
yeah.
more. They're doing actually pretty good. So not that that should be a prerequisite following them. Um, had a big Danny Rick fan here when he was driving with Red Bull. But that's because he's so dreamy. Even they weren't winning anything.
Well, no, he's with McLaren. I don't know. Is he with McLaren now? Who's he with now? No, he's not. I don't know who he's with now. He's like
He's too far down. We're big Formula One fans. Who's Danny Rick? I don't. He's
he
driving for.
he was with
You have a
the he was with
computer. You have a computer literally right in
yeah,
front of
which
you.
is
You
why
could
I
just do
finally checked him out.
Danny,
He is with
Danny Rick.
he is with McLaren now. Okay, he was with Renault and now he's with McLaren.
Yeah, he was with Red Bull. Then he went to
Renault, which became Alpine.
which became Alpine, and then yeah. So
Can't wait for the next race next weekend.
Yep, that'll be good. That'll be good. We'll have to do a hot take on what we thought about the race. I slept through it, and you.
I'm gonna watch the practices.
That's good. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Hopefully next year we can make it back out to a Formula One race.
Yeah,
That'd be nice.
I'm hoping that the Miami supposedly if it's gonna happen. Actually,
Yeah, it'd be good. We went to Coda, and it would be good to see. Like we were thinking about going to Canada, but if they have one in Miami, it might be good to get tickets there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm eager to see more. They lifted the embargo on the GR86 recently, so we got a lot of information. Waiting to see them get the 300 and the new Z.
It's gonna be hard because it was people calling it the 400Z and now they're just calling it.
Yeah. I mean, like, so the car there was the 300ZX was like the car growing up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the 3000 GT VR4, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like the 350Z made sense because like at the time I was working for Benz and they had 350s and stuff like that. So like I never really could get the 370. So it'll take a while for me to call it the Nissan Z without numbers and stuff. But I think we talked about that's a wise choice, right? Just because now there's no number associated with it. It's not like, well, it's a 3.5 liter or it's 350 horsepower or anything like that. They can do whatever they want with it as a platform, and they're not tied to anything but that concept. So they've, by having all these extra descriptors around it, the 300, 300ZX or whatever 350, 370, that number had to mean something besides the next in the series, right? When people see things and then no, it's just the Z car, it's the driving spirit, it's the cheap, affordable car. And then whatever that means is whatever that means. The fact of the matter is, like, when we were growing up or shortly before we grew up, like there was a major change with emissions and cars getting older. You'll see these guys who like old Fox body Mustangs and they think they're beautiful and I think they look like turd bricks. but like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? And as long as they keep making fun cars, I think new enthusiasts will keep finding ways to fall in love with the cars. I think the cars that we're driving now, we're in this golden age. And I think there'll be a lot of nostalgia and a lot of like hype around them in 10, 15, 20 years. Particularly since, they won't be making these cars anymore.
Yeah,
most likely,
yeah,
right?
but they've already like the next year Miata's going to be hybrid and
and even if they're faster, you're going to always have people who enjoy them because they're faster, and that's fine. That's great. Like I want there to continue to be automotive enthusiasts, right? But I think, and I'm not trying to like over specialize or say like this is an investment or anything else like this, but I think once they stop making something, it gets some sort of mystique, right? And like when you talk about like driving a Ferrari with a gated shifter, like they stopped doing that because because it was a pain in the ass. But like because it wasn't user friendly, it was
Hmm.
cumbersome to do. You know, it
Yeah,
wasn't fun in traffic. So like they eventually came out with like better systems that make the car much more
enjoyable. Well,
or much more consumable to a much
yeah,
wider
yeah,
audience,
yeah.
right? But
It's a
like
big audience, so
but
yeah.
enthusiasts don't mind that. Like there's definitely like a culture of people who love rotary engines. And like really, there's it takes a lot more to do with the rotary engine. Even if you like do the oil changes stuff like that, it's generally advised that you premix in like oil
Hmm.
like you would like a two-stroke engine and all this other stuff. And like that's a pain in the butt to do. And but like there are people that you could never do that for the general public, but for the enthusiast community, that's fine. We like I don't get 3,000 miles out of a set of tires,
No,
and they're super expensive tires. And asking the general public to do that, they would
yeah,
like crap themselves, right? And I see a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't like the Pilot Sport Cup 2s because they cost twice as much and last half as long." And like
but
it's but yeah,
but
but
for
like
but for me, with those type of tires, you're gonna feel so much better driving, and you're
yeah,
gonna get
right?
so much better response, all of that stuff. But it's just a
Yeah,
trade-off.
and like being able to keep the miles low on that car, right? Like I
Hmm.
won't put 3,000 miles a year on that car unless I take like very long road trips, right? So it's it's definitely a very, you know, 1,000 and 2,000 miles all on like just road trip miles is like what that car gets. I don't think I put 25 miles on it around town. What's that? What?
You didn't mention what car it is.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Get that later.
Okay.
But but like I mean like, it's
Yeah, yeah, no, I understand.
so and then like when we bought your car, we put the cheaper tires on it because we're probably gonna burn them off and pick something else.
Yeah.
But it's it is what it is, right? It's just it's different strokes for different folks. And I can definitely understand why people don't like to do it. People like same reason like people talk about ceramic brakes and like just replace them with steel. They're pretty much just as good and they're significantly less the cost. And yeah, like if you can't uh, like swallow spending the price of a car 16, 17,000 plus dollars to replace your brakes, then yeah, run steel brakes, right? Um, I'm not saying like I want to spend that money on brakes ever so often, but if you're not tracking a car or something like that, and you can get the lifetime of the car, it's maybe you could the same cost or whatever to not do it. But the fact of the matter is, they're better brakes for like serious driving. So
Hmm.
it all everything is a compromise, right? Of what you can afford and what you get out of the money you spend. And if you want to track it a lot and do all this, and so that's what it comes down to, right? I think some cars they're like not the car for me, or there's definitely a market. I probably won't speak to them, but like I think these cars are definitely cars that I've definitely followed and like have an interest in, right? Um, and like if I just had, you know, 20 parking spaces and a big and a big budget of money, I'd like to think that I wouldn't just fill it with 20 McLarens and Ferraris and Lamborghinis.
We fill with a wide range of
Yeah,
automobiles.
I definitely, you know, money is not infinite, and there's other cars that I have access to that I would rather get. But if things were a little bit different, I would definitely like look into these cars. I think the 300 ZX it'll be interesting how it drives. I think it's at that point in time. I think 400 horsepower is right on this edge. the GT the GT5 or GT 350 was a very interesting car to drive because it was so top end, even though it was a V8. You could really keep it under like 4,000 RPMs, and
Hmm.
it just didn't have tons of power, right?
Yeah, well, no, I just remember how well it shifted and how unique that shifting was with the double clutch on that. Well, I mean, no, well, it's not the double clutch. What was it with the pedal?
I don't know what you're saying. But it
Well,
has a very light clutch pedal, but like,
yeah, but it felt like there were two catch points on it.
oh, there was an assist spring it came to lighten the pedal, and so like you had this like you had to work against the assist spring, and then the assist spring provided a lot of lift in it, and then like it just sort of like let go at some point in time. So the GT350, at least the 2017 that I owned, had this like spring, and they actually had aftermarket kits you could replace it to change behavior. But basically, like it had this pretty long swing, and there's a when you basically hit a point, there's a piece that pivoted, then like basically you extended the spring, and the spring would help pull it up initially. And then like once you got past this point, the spring just like flipped and then stopped adding assistance. So it was this weird, it felt like you had two sweeps inside the clutch pedal,
Yeah, yeah, that's
which
good.
was kind of weird. But that car it did not have lots of low end torque, right? When I say lots of low end torque, like the Corvette, you can literally put it in gear and just and like not even gingerly like just take your foot off the clutch pedal without anywhere near the brake pedal, and the car will just go like an automatic and
Hmm.
actually pretty quickly even at idle.
It's very easy to move forward in
Way
that.
way more torque, right?
Yeah,
Even like on a slight uphill, you can just like let the clutch out and move it forward. You can put that car in fifth gear and you can take off. The engine won't be happy about it, but the GT350 is a much different car. Like you really feel the benefit after 6,000, probably 5,500, 6,000 RPMs all the way up to 8,000 RPMs, and then you have to like hold it in that range, which actually makes it really good to drive on the street for 525 horsepower because that power comes on so late that like you mash your foot into the throttle outside of some ridiculously high RPM band, and you're not going to just light up tires and get sideways and do stupid things. It's
yeah.
much harder. So it makes you feel much more controlled and planted. Whereas the ZR1, if you so much as look at the gas pedal wrong, it'll be they tone it down somewhat in touring mode, but if you put it in like sport or track mode, you definitely have to consider the gas pedal, not like a light switch, but like a very sensitive dimmer
Hmm.
switch. Um, and the clown shoe is even worse
Yes.
that.
Oh my gosh. Yes,
But
you just put the gas down too long and it goes forward.
you just put the gas down at all, and if the wheel isn't straight and it's not a dry day, and
Yeah, if there's a little bit of water in there, be careful.
it's generally speaking, I like when we're pulling out from our garage or whatever, we hit the street, and then I make a left on this cross street, crossing the
Hmm.
lane or whatever, and I turn the wheel, I way under turn the wheel, and then just like gingerly give it some gas and just literally let the rear end swing me out into the lane, and
That's how we exit.
that's how I exit. It's a rear steering. Um, the clown shoe is my wife's car. It's her 2020 Hellcat Red Eye, right?
Yes.
So it's people try to make those cars fast, and I think they are grossly misunderstanding where they're best at, and they're best at just hooning around.
Making people smile with the big supercharger one.
Yes, just being goofy. Those
Yeah.
cars are tons of fun. They are excellent on the highway, but you know, we came from these types of cars like the 300. You had an STI before that. We had a WRX. Before that, we were
Yeah.
driving
Hondas.
Hondas,
Little
little
Hondas.
Hondas. We were,
Oh my gosh. Like
initial,
140 horsepower Hondas.
yeah.
We even at one time we both had uh the same like I had like an LX model, he had like an EX model, so you had like the high model
I had
designation.
power windows. You
But
had manual
yeah,
windows.
yes, yes, but it was like they were both like 9,700 chords.
No, mine was a 95.
Okay, it
Yours
was
was 2 years newer,
okay,
but
but it
mine
was
had more options.
yeah, yeah, that's what it was. But it was still in like the model range type, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're the
And
same color,
yeah, they were the same. And I still remember when
and our Subarus were the same color,
yes, yes,
and that's the last time.
that happened.
Yeah, the GT350 was not the same color as the M4. It's not the same color. We stopped buying cars in the same color.
Yeah.
Womp womp. But no, we were big fans of Initial D. We love like JDM
Hmm.
cars and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah,
Like your dream old car is an FD, right?
mhm.
Like a white FD. So these cars are definitely, despite the cars we drive now, American muscle V8 supercharger 700 horsepower. Nah.
And also one of the major reasons that is because when we got to the point where we could get these wonderful sports cars, they won't make them anymore. You had to buy them used and stuff, and if you wanted a new one, it was like, oh, what's around there? What's out there? And
Yeah. So I think these cars are definitely, like we're discussing, the Z and the
mhm,
GR86 are near and dear to our hearts.
yeah,
We were definitely looking for like a light, fast, you know, not an immense amount of horsepower car to own, and we landed on the Avora and then ultimately the Amira,
mhm.
um, because we were gonna pick up a C8 Corvette, and we passed on that one because you didn't like them.
I know
We'll
that.
go have that
Yeah,
discussion
okay,
later, but like it's an opportunity to drive something new, right?
yes,
We've
most
had
definitely.
we've had turbocharged cars, we've had supercharged cars, we've had high RPM naturally aspirated cars,
Mhm,
and the other thing is the deciding factor is going from a ZR1 to a Z0 to a base model Corvette. We knew they were coming up with a Z06 or something
mhm.
like that, and so I think we were thinking about waiting for the ZR1. We might try to get in on a Z06. We're definitely like getting the feelers out there and trying to get that situated. So we'll see how that goes. But um, yeah, I think the Amira was the choice just because it's a lot of it's everything we're looking for,
And
but it's a different experience than the mid-engine
yeah,
is.
with the
Yeah,
mid-engine, and also with just
Lotus and
and with Lotus and the history with cars and driving experience. So
yeah,
if you want to, because that's always was a wonderful driving experience.
yeah. We'll probably when the 300 the new Z comes out, we'll probably go and test drive it to see how it compares. I definitely would be interested in seeing that. It's definitely gonna keep my ear to the ground on it. It's a great age for cars, man. It's
It really is, and like so many choices. I'm like, oh, I want this and I want this and I want this one,
yeah.
but can't
I
I
never
can't have all of them, unfortunately.
yeah. I never thought honestly. We've discussed this. Like we used to watch Top Gear and be like, "Oh God, these cars are so awesome!" Like imagine driving this car. Imagine
Imagine if we could actually have one of these
it
cars.
would be like it's insane. And I
Yeah.
never thought like if I could afford one of those cars, I would look back and be like, oh, that 300 or that new Z or the new 86, like, ah man, I'm tempted to buy one. I thought like honestly, once you got to that level and you bought this car, you'd be like, oh, you have no need, like, because this car will do everything. But I don't know. I don't think it is that. You even if you made a car that weighed the same as a GR86 or even lighter, you know, and had 1,000 horsepower, 800 horsepower, some insane amount of horsepower, and it had super grip and super aero, you would still, in my mind, and my view is very different now than it was. My mind, I would still be interested in a lower horsepower car, just for the fact that like having a 755 horsepower car, that makes 950 pounds of downforce and has these massive, basically street legal track tires. And I'm trying to figure out how I can get a set of like Cup 2 Rs in that size. Even with this car, you can't use it. You can drive faster than everybody else out there and be
And
using
the
five
tiny,
five
tiny,
percent of the
just
car.
a smidgen of it, yeah.
5% of the car, and it seems wasteful. And I remember when I had the WRX, driving that car at 8 tenths, 9 tenths out on the road and just pushing it hard, and it's fun to do. And you can't. It was irresponsible to push that car hard. It is criminally illegal to drive 200 miles an hour on the street, and I know, like it's you know what I mean. You have a car that's very capable of doing it, but like you can't, and you can bring it to a track, but then like owning a car that's really great to drive on the street, but just taking to a track, it's wasteful, right? So like having that, so the hope is that the Amir will fulfill this middle ground of like being able to push the car a little bit more, but still not being, you know, completely bonkers. You know,
Yeah,
getting a
so
little
you can
more.
drive it easier on the street and go much faster than
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, cool. Well, we'll talk more when we get some more information, but I think that's a good bit for now. That's 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's a
We've
long
been
time.
talking. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that concludes it.
Talk to you later.
Talk to you later.